Okay, so hello, Dr. Barrow. This is Dylan Babcock, and I'll be doing the interview questions. Okay, so question number one, tell me about yourself. I have great social skills, first off. I'm very involved on campus here at Southeast Missouri. I try to get involved with clubs so I can, get myself out there, meet people, learn a little bit. I mean, it won't hurt. It's better than staying inside. I also have the ability to work well with a team, even though I'm more of a solo worker. I thrive working by myself. I really do. I don't like having other people to deal with, but I am a great team worker because I've had to do it, and there's pluses to it. I do like it, but I prefer working by myself. Question number two: what is your greatest strength? By far, my greatest strength is reliability. My first job I ever had, I was 15. I got hired at the St. Francis Levee District. It was basically cleaning up levee debris, clearing out pathways for to make roads soon. We did mowing, we cut down trees. I had to deal with chiggers, snakes, mosquitoes, being drenched in sweat, working 9 to 10 hours a day, getting up at 5 in the morning. I mean, it was absolutely awful. And I was only 15, so of course I wanted to quit within the first day or two. But I stuck with it the whole summer. I decided, you know what, I'm gonna do this. And ever since then, I feel like it can't get worse. Sometimes when I question myself and say, I don't want to go to work today, I'm like, man, it can't get worse than the levee district. It really can't. And that's one thing that pushes me forward and makes me more reliable because I've already done or had a terrible job. And if it can't get worse than that, then I can do it. I'll be fine. Question number three: which Excel programs are you familiar with for cost estimating? I'm familiar with RSMD, which is RS means data online. We didn't use this for CM315, and we just used the school's program, which was just an estimator. But I use this because I know a lot of companies do. It's a well used program universally, so I kind of familiarize myself with it just in case. A lot of companies use this, so now I know. And the thing with estimating is it doesn't really matter the program. I mean, it does, but you can familiarize yourself with a lot of the programs fairly quickly. So if it's a different program that your company's using, I could easily convert myself or just start familiarizing myself with that, and it'd be no transition really at all. Question number four: how familiar are you with reading and interpreting blueprints and or electrical drawings? Okay, so I've taken architectural drafting and design 1 and 2, which is basically you're constructing blueprints yourself. We started with using the program AutoCAD. It's most commonly used. I mean, I've looked at job listings, just about every one of them says use of AutoCAD. Can you work AutoCAD? AutoCAD is probably the number one used in this nation, and that's what we used first. We got real familiar with using that because it's the old system, it's what's in, it's what everybody used. I got what very, very well using that. But then in architectural drafting and design 2, we moved on to using Revit. Revit is a completely different program. I mean, it's literally everything is different, but it's better used for designing a house instead of a pathway, or designing a garage instead of on AutoCAD, drawing up the foundation and the slabs for it, which would be easier on AutoCAD compared to Revit, in my opinion. But people prefer one over the other. I'm familiar with both, and we've had to make houses out of nothing but a blank computer screen, and I've done that. I can do that. It's become very easy for me at that. And then I've also taken construction method and materials 1 and 2. In that class, basically what the professor will do will give us a set of blueprints and say, hey, build this. That'll go from electrical drawing to just the foundation that we have to make real quick, or just walls that you have to put up. It doesn't matter. It can go from a box that has something inside of it to a full-blown bedroom that we had to construct for our final project. So that really made me familiarize myself with reading blueprints, but it also helped me with making them because I was on the other side reading them, and I'm like, okay, now I understand what the notes are for and what this is for. It all just came together as one. So I would say I'm very familiar with reading and interpreting blueprints. Question number 5: how have you demonstrated safe work practices in your formal job? Well, first off, follow the instructions. That's the number one thing. I've learned that with, just the smallest things. Make sure you're doing it right. And that goes from cooking to using heavy equipment. Make sure you're doing it right. That's the number one thing. As long as you're doing it right, then you're off to a great start. Another thing you want to do is you got to be aware of your situation. Always check your surroundings. If there's supposed to be someone, supposed to have clear space for this, or you're not supposed to be crowded, you always want to be aware of your situation. What can go wrong will go wrong. Always remember that. What can go wrong will go wrong. But will it go wrong for you? That's the number one question. Next up, you always want to make sure you're using the right tools. Without the right tools, how are you going to safely do the job? And lastly, you got to give 100%. No matter what you're doing, you can't just show up very tired that day. Oh, I didn't have my morning coffee, so I'm sluggish. That can get you hurt. Not being 100%, doing anything on a job site can get you hurt, if not killed. Next question, number 6. Would you consider yourself a leader? Explain. I would definitely consider myself a leader. My whole life growing up, that's all I ever wanted to do is just lead. Wasn't a good quarterback, but in football I knew the quarterback's job was to lead the team. That's all I ever wanted to be, was a quarterback, because he led the team. But growing up, I got told before you can be a leader, you must be a follower. And that hit me hard. So I'm like, well, why? Well, why is because how can you lead without, knowing what to tell others, or how to lead the others, should I say. And the jobs I've worked previously, I know I've followed very closely. I've watched my supervisors. I've paid close attention. I've come to school here. I've been here for 4 years. I'm finally graduating next semester. I've worked very hard, and I've learned a lot about what it's like to be a leader, and I cannot wait to get my position and given the responsibility of myself to be a leader, to prove that I can be a leader and that I'm a great person to be a leader. Next up, number 7, how do you ensure accuracy in your estimations? First things first, double check. Always double check. You can't just form a bid and not double check it, because it can be off by one smidget, and that'll throw you off by $10,000 to $50,000, even more depending on what the mistake is. One simple mistake can throw off your whole bid, so you always double check. Next, you got to have a clear mind. Math is very frustrating, and that's what a lot of estimating is. It's math. So as long as you're doing it with a clear mind, you're off to a good start, because you can't do this type of work frustrated. You can't do it with a heavy mind. You just got to be clear-minded and just go at it. Lastly, right tools again. You have to make sure you're using the program you're supposed to be using the right formula, calculations, whatever the case may be. It has to be right, and you need to check that before you start diving into all these numbers. And you can come up with an error just like that. That's the one thing with estimating. You got all this list of materials and cost. You have to make sure that's it. I almost double check everything when I type it in the first time. You can't double check too much. Number 8, why should we hire you? I think you should hire me because I possess the skills and experience that make me stand out of the crowd from everyone else. I've worked very hard to get where I'm at today. I can't wait to take on an opportunity where I can show off my skills for a company like yours. And honestly, I think I'm the perfect fit for the job, and that no one else out there is better than me. I've literally waited for this moment my whole life. I've worked and I've worked and I've worked and I've worked, and now it's finally time to prove myself to someone, and I hope you guys give me that chance. Number 9, do you have any questions for us? Yes. Being an intern, the question always lingers around to me. If I perform well, if you guys like how I work, would you ever consider hiring me on full-time after the fact? The reason I ask this is because, it gives me the sense of job security. Like, hey, I'm not just working here for an internship. I'm working here to impress these guys. They might hire me on after. Regardless, I'm going to do a great job, and I'm going to try to impress you guys. But that in itself just gives me that extra drive. Like, okay, these guys are, they're going to show interest in me. I have that small sliver of a chance of, being able to come here after my internship. And that makes me just stand out as a company to me a lot more, because I'd way rather work for a company somewhere that I have the opportunity to go on after the internship is complete, especially if I did well. But other than that, there's no questions, and I guess this completes the interview. Thank you so much, Dr. Vero, and this was Dylan Babcock. Thank you.